Hey everyone, welcome back to the EWS Connect Everywhere YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to install a meteorological spec rain gauge, the same kind used in professional weather monitoring setups. We'll be working with a 0.2mm tipping bucket rain gauge, an EWS EMT telemetry device, and some real field footage from the stunning Kimberley region of Western Australia. First, I would like to recognise the Gidja people whose lands we worked on. Their country is truly amazing to see and well worth a visit. Alright, before you start digging holes, remember every setup is unique. Your equipment and environment will differ from ours, so get familiar with your gear, read your sensor manuals, and check out our quick start guides and other videos. Plan carefully, especially if you're working remotely. Getting out in the elements is no joke. This install took months of planning and approvals before we even set foot on country. Preparation is key. Out in the field, wildlife and general mischief can be a real problem. To protect your instrumentation, I highly recommend building a neat fencing compound around your setup. About 3 by 3 metres and 1.2 metres high is ideal. That'll keep curious animals and people from humbugging with your rain gauge and ensure the site lasts for years. Now let's get hands on. Lay a 600 by 600 form on flat ground, embedding it slightly into the surface. Aim to get this in the centre of the compound. I've used the handle of the shovel to ensure the formwork is equal distance from each fence. No need to be millimetre perfect, just don't place it up against the fences. Check the formwork for level on all sides. This will help you level the concrete mix later and reduce the amount of adjustments you'll have to do later on. Once level, clear any rocks or loose dirt from the middle of the formwork and it's time to start mixing. Pre-wet the ground to stop the soil from sucking water out of your mix. Then add 1 bag of pre-mixed concrete into the formwork. Spread the concrete mix evenly around the base of the formwork. Add water and fold it through the concrete mixing with the shovel. Once the concrete is thoroughly wet, add the next bag and repeat. Keep adding water and mixing until you have a cake-like mixture, not runny or dry. Continue to add concrete and mix with water until your formwork is full and you have about 100mm thick slab. Get the rain gauge stand prepped with the securing bolt still attached to the stand, then align the stand on the slab ensuring the EMT mounting holes face towards the sun position around midday. Push the securing bolts into the wet concrete mix, tapping them into place with a mallet as required. Next, remove the stand from the pad, keeping those bolts in place. Then grab your concrete float and begin to agitate and press the concrete into the formwork, taking care not to alter the bolts' positions. Once the cement rises and creates a cream on the surface, spread and smooth it out to create a smooth concrete finish. You can then replace the rain gauge stand to ensure that bolts have not moved. Reapply the nuts to the bolt threads to ensure they remain clean, but don't tighten them down yet. If the concrete mix is dry enough, you should be able to leave the stand in place, floated on top of the pad to ensure the bolts stay in the correct place as the concrete dries. Allow at least 24 hours for the slab to dry before returning to tighten nuts and installing the rest of the rain gauge and telemetry equipment. Tightening the bolts too soon will result in them being pulled through the wet concrete, damaging the concrete pad. So back on site the next day, it's time to assemble the station. Start by removing the outer cowling of the rain gauge by removing the 3 screws near the base. Gently lift the cowling upwards, revealing the tipping mechanism. Absolutely remember to remove the rubber band around the tilting mechanism and ensure it moves freely, otherwise even if it rains, you'll only read zeros. Position the rain gauge feet over the mounting holes, being sure to also line up the hole for the 2-core signal cable with the hole in the base of the stand. The rain gauge can now be screwed tight. Next, check that the spirit bubble indicator is level. If required, use spacers or washers added underneath the stand to level out the gauge. Once level, the nuts on the base of the stand can be tightened with a spanner. Be careful not to over-tighten nuts, especially if the concrete slab is not fully cured, as the bolts may pull through the slab and weaken the connection, requiring the use of a large drill and chemset anchors to repair any damages. Next, install the EWS EMT telemetry device onto the stand using the supplied screws, lining up the nutsets located on the side of the stand with the EMT mounting wings. Loosely fit the screws at first, then tighten once all 4 are in place. If you haven't already, you can remove the formwork. This can be reused at another site if required. Next, we will connect the EMT to the rain gauge. Feed the 2-core cable with flexi conduit through the hole in the side of the stand and up towards the rain gauge. Then feed the 2-core wire up through the stand and the base of the rain gauge. Then connect the M12 plug to channel 1 on the EMT. Adjust the flexi conduit to ensure it covers the M12 plug and fits snugly inside the stand base. Prep the wire ends and connect them to the reed switch on the rain gauge tipping mechanism. Ensure both wires are connected to the same reed switch, using either both white wires or both black wires on the rain gauge termination block. The reed switch can be tested by placing a multimeter in continuity mode and touching each probe to the reed switch wire termination screws, then tilting the mechanism and listening for the beep. Next, it's time to turn on the EMT by pressing the button on the side of the device and ensuring the blue light is flashing. Now pair to your mobile device using the EWS Links app. See the EWS Links Quick Start Guide video for more information. Be sure to notate the IMEI number and force the test readings and force the transmission. Follow the EWS Links app Quick Start Guide for more detail. The rain gauge outer cowling can now be replaced, gently sliding it back over the tipping mechanism and reinstalling the 3 screws around the base and tightening by hand. Again, do not over tighten, as this will make servicing and cleaning difficult for future visits. Finally, ensure the rim of the rain gauge sits approximately 1 metre above ground level and make any further adjustments to the feet as necessary. Excellent, now you have a working rain gauge installed and ready to capture your rainfall. Finally, we can run a calibration or accuracy check. To do this, you'll need a rain gauge calibration testing kit. Place the testing stand on the rim of the rain gauge, then fill the known volume container with water, ensuring a positive meniscus at the top of the container. Attach the funnel piece to the container and place it into the stand. The release valve is then opened, allowing water to flow into the rain gauge. We then listen for the mechanism to tip and count each tip using a tally sheet or handheld counter. Once the funnel is empty, the recorded amount of tips is checked against the calibration documentation included in the calibration kit and your rain gauge size. This calibration kit and rain gauge is expected to tip 50 times and have an allowance of plus or minus 2.5 tips to be considered accurate. The cowling should also be removed to check the amount of leftover water on the tipping mechanism. In this case, there was approximately half a tip left inside the gauge, giving us a total of 48.5 to 49 tips, well within specification. If the gauge requires further calibration, check the manufacturer's manual for how to adjust the mechanism and rerun the test. Lastly, it is important to check that all the filters, siphons and funnels are clear and clean when running the calibration test, and also during general use for the most accurate measurements. And that's it, you've just installed a professional grade meteorological rain gauge system. If you found this guide helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more environmental tech projects, and drop a comment below if you set up your own station. I'd love to hear about your experience. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and keep measuring that rain.